Okay, we're going to move on now to a voice from the other side of the world again. I've got, again, immense pleasure to introduce Brendan Maher from the Clontarf Foundation. We had a great pleasure in having a chat with Brendan on the phone to line him up for this convention. And I'm sure that when Brendan shares the work that Clontarf does, you'll be as amazed as I was and other people. Clontarf Foundation exists to improve the education, discipline, life skills and self-esteem, and also the employment prospects of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander men. It was established in 2000. It was established with a single academy that catered for 25 young people. It was managed by 2 staff, but over the past 20 years, the foundation now operates 136 academies across Australia, supporting in excess of 9,700 young people and employs 520 dedicated staff. Brendan joined Clontarf Foundation in 2012, and after holding a position of a zone manager in New South Wales, he was appointed as their Chief Operations Officer in the East in 2021. Welcome, Brendan. Good to see you. And I suppose it's good evening to you as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Okay, I'll just hand it over to you, mate, and off you go.
I don't know how you got all that up-to-date information. I mean, I didn't even know. I haven't even put it on my emails to Nick yet about the Queensland thing. But anyway, thanks for the introduction and thanks everyone for listening. A bit about Clontarf and how it started. It was actually started by accident. Our CEO was a primary school teacher in the 70s, and he used to teach in low socioeconomic areas. And then he went to a school called Clontarf, and Clontarf was a school for at-risk adolescent boys that were on the wrong side of the tracks. And he was meant to turn them into good kids, and they were meant to go off and have a great life. That was in the 70s, and it was meant to be a behaviour change school. It failed, it shut down. He left teaching at that time and went and had a 20-year career in sport and became quite famous in Australia, definitely in West Australia. And he coached in our elite competition for 4 years, and it was all that lasted. And he got the sack, and he didn't know what he was going to do. But in that 20 years that he was absent from this school called Clontarf, it turned into its second life, and that was called Clontarf Aboriginal College. And Jared turned up there as a pretty cranky, down on himself teacher, just lost his dream job. And he said it was a great place to teach because no boys were turning up. And he said on a good day would have 15, on a bad day would have 5. And they were quite disengaged, angry with the world, low self-esteem, low confidence, quick to react. So he got a group of the boys together, and he said, look, I don't want to be here. This is in 1999. You don't want to be here because when you're here, you disrespect the teachers, the school, you turn up sporadically. So he struck a simple agreement with these boys. He said, look, I'll coach you footy twice a week, but you have to commit to your school. And if you can do that for the rest of the school term, I'll arrange some footy games and some camping trips. And that was really about it. What happened over the course of the term is that the boys voluntarily changed their own behaviour. They went from being really disengaged, angry, like I described before, to quite the opposite, laughing, having fun, turning up to school more regularly, engaging with their teachers. So that was really the start of Clontarf back 20 years ago. And slowly but surely we've spread across Australia, and I won't go into too much detail about that, but what do? We work with Aboriginal boys exclusively. And when I talk about the boys, some of them come from really great families, but a lot come from really disadvantaged areas. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that in Australia, but we solely focus on Aboriginal boys to get them to school, keep them at school, stay at school, and then find them a job. For whatever reason in Australia, and I'm sure everyone on this conference believes that education is, the way out for any young person in a difficult situation. But for whatever reason in Australia, Aboriginal boys drop out of school at a quicker rate than anyone else. And then, of course, employment becomes hard, health outcomes are worse, incarceration, likeliness of incarceration or criminal activity, increases. So we actually believe that getting these boys to finish school, we have this thing in Australia called Close the Gap, between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people will go a long way to closing the gap. I wrote some notes after my call with Ian and Kevin about why do I think we are successful or being successful. The first thing is that the boys volunteer to be a part of the program. They're not made to be a part of it, and they love sport. And we really use sport to teach the boys discipline, self-esteem, self-respect, respect for the opposition. So first and foremost, the boys love it, and it's voluntary for them. So they engage, and that allows us to change their behaviour or help change their behaviour. Secondly, we're measurable. We measure everything we do, from attendance, school attendance every day, retention through to year 12, employment outcomes, health checks. Thirdly, we have scale. We're right across Australia. And that allows staff that work with the boys to have a career and to be promoted and to see a career for themselves, so they're not stuck in one location or stuck on one level. So of those 550 staff, you can have a genuine career in our organisation. And probably interestingly, our funding model is pretty unique, and it's been this way since the start, is that the federal government put in $2,500 per boy per year. The state or territory government, depending on where we are, put in $2,500 per boy per year. And we raise about $2,500 in the private sector. So this year will be about a $70 million not-for-profit, divided into 3 equal portions, if you like, but the federal government obviously being the biggest contributor. And what that allows us to do is have different revenue streams, so we don't have to stop-start our program. We are continuous in the schools every day, shoulder to shoulder with the teachers. It allows us to be independent of governments, so they can't tell us what to do, because governments are not sure about Scotland, but governments are quite good at, if they give you the money, they think they own it. Well, they don't have that over us here, because we've got 3 different revenue streams from lots of different areas. And it also provides unique opportunities for the boys and job opportunities for the boys once they graduate school, but also throughout school. And finally, I think one of the other reasons we're successful is we've got a really narrow focus. We know our job, our staff know our job, we don't deviate. And we work really hard with the boys and their families just to get a successful outcome for them, so they can have a great life. So that's a really quick snapshot, and I'm happy to take any questions.